Um, Now, the documents that you're going to see tonight, in order to obtain them yourself, you can, but we require that a non-disclosure agreement is signed, and then you'll be able to obtain a copy of those documents. We have them on flash drive, and we're asking for a $10 donation to cover the cost of the flash drive. So, I guess we'll go ahead and get started then. Is there anyone that's not familiar with an affidavit process? Is there anyone that has actually done an affidavit before in a public record? Okay. So we're all kind of starting at the same point here. One thing I wanted to mention too is we have a group called, a YouTube channel now called Restoring the Republic 2022. And these videos will be posted on that channel after each meeting. If you're going to bring people to the meeting, then I would like to have those people watch those videos so that they're caught up and able to come into the next meeting so we can just keep going down the road. If anybody has any questions, just let me know as we go through this, and we'll try and answer anybody's questions as we go through. So, an affidavit basically is your statement of truth, and it is an admissible document. In fact, it's the highest form of document that you can have in the public record. And when an affidavit is recorded and put into the public record, it has 30 days to be rebutted, or it becomes a matter of public policy. So that's the reason that we use such a document. And bring up what we're starting to work on. So one of the things that we're going to talk about is you're going to actually learn how to complete an affidavit that talks about your status. Now, most of us, unfortunately, because of some trickery that was done, were sold into slavery unwittingly by our parents. And the birth certificate is the document that was used to accomplish that. Now, we still have our status as state nationals, but we have to break the presumption that was made by that birth certificate. And now, is there anybody that's not familiar with the concept that there's actually two different birth certificates? Okay. Just so we've got it on the record, there is a certificate of live birth, which is what the parents filled out in the hospital for their newborn baby. That document was filled out the way that most of us would fill out our names right now, which is in upper and lower case. But the information from that document was then used to create a trust in the public record. That is called a Seti K Vi, that basically means this is life. And that type of trust is basically a fiction. It's no different than an IBM or a Microsoft. It's just a corporation or a trust. And that document is what was used to create a trust. The certificate of live birth, the information was used to create a trust. Then, and the parents received notice of that trust when they got a birth certificate in the mail for that child. And if you look at that actual birth certificate, you'll see that the name is in all uppercase. And that denotes a corporation. Anything that's in all uppercase denotes a corporation or a trust. And so that, unwittingly, our parents then filled that out and allowed that to happen. And it was presumed then that we, the living child, was lost at sea. And so then, in order to, you have to come back and reclaim your status. Now, if your parents had been aware of the rules, they would have understood that I've got 7 years to go and make sure that it's in the public record that my child is still alive, that it's not lost. Lost beyond the sea is the term they like to use with that. And so, but of course the parents were never told that's what the birth certificate is. And so they didn't know they needed to reclaim that, and so after the 7 years, everything goes into a public trust. And all the assets then that entity is going to acquire, the assets that you think you own. And so if you buy a house, you buy a car, just about anything that has some sort of title to it is going to be in that all uppercase name. And you, the upper and lowercase living man or woman, don't hold title to it. That entity holds title, and since they're presumed to be in control of that entity, which is the government trust basically controls that, and so they hold title in that trust for waiting for the heir to come back, which the heir didn't know he or she needed to come back. And so it just remains in that trust for the rest of life until the one who should have been the heir passes away, and then, well, I guess they really are gone now, so we'll keep holding on to that. And they keep trading and making money on that long after the living man or woman is gone. So that's, if you notice, that's why they will also put the name in all uppercase on the headstones. So there's a lot of things going on there. So anyway, when we fill this out, this document, I've tried to make it so that it's fairly straightforward. Everything that's highlighted in yellow is going to be something that you're going to either need to change and put in the information. If you have your own notary, I'm hoping eventually that as this group grows, maybe we'll have a few people decide that they want to be notaries, so that we have notaries built into our groups. And that'll make life a lot easier rather than everybody having to go and find their own notary to try and get this document completed. So you can see in the upper left corner that you've got the notary. You're going to have the name of the notary, the address of the notary, the city, and the state. And now on the right side here you see international stamp. Is there anyone that doesn't know what an international stamp is? Okay. Now, if you go to the post office and you ask them for an international stamp, I think in the future I'll take a picture of one.
I've got one.
You have one with you? I've got it here with me, but it's so small that if I was to hold it here, it wouldn't mean a whole lot to everybody. But if you want to just pass that around, Mike, so that everybody can see it. Do you have that way?
Okay.
And so I think the one for Colorado, yeah, it looks like, you get that at the post office here?
Yeah.
Okay. The ones I have are green, so obviously they've changed them, but they're about $1.25 a piece to get an international stamp. Now, the significance of the international stamp is it puts value to the document. Okay? And so what you'll do is you'll actually affix that international stamp into the upper right-hand corner there. Of course, you're going to get rid of where it says international stamp. That's more for your instruction, and you'll put that there, and then you're going to make your autograph diagonally across that stamp in red ink or blue, and then take your red ink thumbprint and seal it. Now, by doing that, in effect, you've canceled the stamp. So you've actually acted as your own postmaster, and that's lawful for you to do. But you've canceled the stamp. And if you have any problem at all with the clerk and recorder's office, and I've had them try and say, well, we can't record that because of that stamp, you could say, well, do you have any problem recording? Do you have any evidence that that stamp isn't already canceled? And then the person looks at it and goes, oh, okay, I guess we can go ahead and record that. Because if the stamp's been canceled, then they can actually record it.
Why does it need to be international?
Well, because eventually you can place these documents in, we're going to put the highest value. I used to be able to get what was called Red Fox stamps, which were actually gold-backed stamps. But you can't get those anymore. They were $1. They had been, when they were available, they were $1 a piece, and they're all gold-backed. And that was, obviously the best, but you can't get those, so we'll take it. And that way, if this document ever does have to go international, you've got the proper type of stamp on it to be able to accommodate that, if it ever has to go overseas for any reason. Okay. Now, how many people are aware that there are also different flags?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, those of you that have been in court, I just had that experience yesterday with my son. You'll actually see that that flag has a gold fringe on it.
Like that one over there?
Yeah,
That's the international
exactly.
stamp.
Now,
This is a
do you,
registered letter that you send to yourself.
that is actually an Admiralty Maritime flag. So that they're basically in the courthouse, they're telling you what jurisdiction you're going to be operating under. And so unless you want to be under that jurisdiction, that's why if you're going to be in the courtroom, first thing you want to do is challenge jurisdiction. And you don't want to go up to the bar, because I found this out yesterday, that they will assume, and the judge makes that statement, I have jurisdiction. And I said, well, how did you acquire that? And she just smirked. Didn't answer me, just smirked. So, these are things that people probably are going to need to learn, as the little tricks that they try and pull. Because they want to get you to give them jurisdiction before you even open your mouth. So they'll kind of get ticked off if you do it, but you want to stay behind that little podium. Stay behind, there's a bar where everybody sits. That's as far as you go.
Stay in the audience?
That's the mast.
Yes.
What's that?
Stay in the audience section?
Yeah, but you'll come up, they have a divisor between where they have the little podium with the microphone. You can stand at that and just tell the judge, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to grant jurisdiction, so this is as far as I'm going to come.
Okay.
Mainly because you get on the sea when you
Right.
cross.
And you're walking onto their ship.
Then what happened?
Well, you granted jurisdiction. Well, that whole thing, it's going to go to trial, and they don't realize yet, but they're about to, within a week, on day 16, they're going to get their first bill. And I'm going to pull the oaths of office of all the judges and all the county attorneys, because I wasn't aware of how that system works and how they, a friend of mine had told me his experience, and he actually got to meet with the attorney's office, the DA, and it was a separate deal. Here, it's a little grinder. You come in and there's cubicles, and they've got the city attorney, and then they're really hoping you're just going to say, okay, I decided to take your terms, and then they immediately shuffle you into the court, and then you're talking to the judge, which is not what I expected that meeting to be. So now I know what to expect, and you just basically tell them I'm not going to grant jurisdiction. So, and unless you grant jurisdiction, they can't acquire it. And if they can't acquire jurisdiction, then they have no authority in that matter. So we took a little sidetrack here, but just a little tidbit for everybody to be aware of. Now this flag up here is called Old Glory. And so that's a Title IV flag. And that's the only flag that we should be flying right now. That's the flag of the Republic. So we want that on our document because it states where we're coming from as well. Okay, so we're calling this document a living testimony in the form of a verified affidavit of truth and facts, claim of adult status. Let's stop right there. You think when you go into any type of court proceeding that they assume because you're over the age of 21 that you're an adult? They consider you to be a minor. And if you get an attorney, now you're an incompetent minor or a ward of the state. So that's why you needed the attorney, is because you're completely incompetent and you can't speak for yourself.
Well, now, is that based on the fact that we've gotten on their ship?
Well, no, that's how, because you didn't change your status. You're presumed, because you've never changed your status, that you've remained a ward of the state and a minor. Okay? So that's why we're saying it's a claim of adult and state national status. Because I want both of those. Because again, it's presumed that you're a U.S. citizen, and it's presumed you're a minor. So we need to change both of those things in order to have our status corrected. And so this affidavit is a way to do that. Now, the other thing is, again, they're holding title to all the assets right now, right? You think you own your house. You don't. Even after you got it paid off, you don't own it. You're going to find out that you're really nothing more than a tenant on your own property. And so there are ways to change that as well. This document alone doesn't do that, but there are ways to change that because, again, everything has been moved into the public. We have to move it back into our world, which is private. And that's what we're doing with our status, and that's what we'll need to do with all of our assets. So we're making paramount title claim to any and all assets currently held by the Seti K by Public Legal Fiction Trust Entity, and the uppercase name that's on the birth certificate, and all public legal fiction trust entities created through the use of whichever state birth certificate on the public record as birth state file number. And you'll see, if you start looking at the birth certificates, you'll see there's a file number in there. And you have to start putting it all together because they don't want you to know that that's all one number. And so there is actually an area code. So when you look at your birth certificate, let me indulge me for a minute here. Let me find just some examples so I can show everybody and on camera. Because again, we want everybody to understand that all of this isn't just me talking. And that's one of the things I don't want everybody or anybody to accept what I'm saying. Go and prove me right or prove me wrong, but you need to do your own research in this. And so that's really important when it comes to these documents. If there's something that you want to know, you want to look it up. And you can go to a website that's called law.cornell.edu. And in that, as we go through this, you're going to see listings of certain statutes and so forth. And everybody needs to understand those statutes are there only for the public entities. Those do not apply to us as much as they would like them to apply to us. They only apply to those trusts. And so if you get caught up in the fact of that name, then you're going to get caught up in the fact that they're presuming that you're a surety or the trustee for that trust. And in those two statuses, you basically don't have anything but privileges. Or I mean rights. You don't have rights, you have privileges. And so that's another thing that we have to change because those, if you're just going to act as the surety or the trustee, is there anyone that doesn't know what a surety is? Okay? Now, surety is actually someone who agrees to pay the debts for another. Okay? So when they presume you're the surety, then they're presuming that you, the living man, are going to pay the debts for that entity that has a name that looks like yours, but it's in all capital letters. And that's one of the things that we want to be able to break because they're going to try and charge that entity with traffic citations. They're going to try and charge it with all sorts of things that it's all about money. And you know, I sat down in that court yesterday. You know, you go down to room 108 at the municipal court and watch all the people showing up with their little yellow slips. And then we're getting out their checkbooks or their credit cards to pay. And you realize how much money these people harvest in a day. It's staggering. You know, I wish I could devise a legal, lawful scheme to get people to show up and pay me on a daily basis, but I haven't figured that one out yet. So, now let me find this. Here's a certificate of live birth. Let me make that a whole bunch bigger.